Imagine waking up one morning in a city full of life, laughter echoing through its streets, markets crowded with merchants, children running through courtyards, and by nightfall, that same city is gone. Not burned to the ground, not conquered by an enemy army, not even abandoned. It has simply vanished. No one knows how. No one left behind answers. Just silence, ruins, and whispers carried by the wind. Tonight, we travel back centuries to a place where an empire disappeared overnight, leaving historians baffled, legends terrified, and the world wondering, how can an entire civilization vanish without a trace? The story begins in the Empire of Zarathia, a land of gleaming towers, fertile plains, and rivers that reflected the brilliance of its golden age. It was a place that scholars compared to Babylon at its height, rich, prosperous, and powerful. The people of Zarathia prided themselves on their knowledge, their trade, and their unmatched engineering. Its rulers were wise, or so it seemed. For centuries, Zarathia had survived plagues, droughts, invasions, and internal rebellions. Its citizens believed themselves untouchable. Its walls, guards, and fortifications were legendary. Scholars documented intricate irrigation systems, warehouses brimming with food, libraries holding thousands of scrolls, and temples that reached toward the heavens. Zarathia seemed eternal. And yet, in the weeks before the empire's disappearance, there were subtle signs. Farmers whispered of strange lights over the mountains at night, unseen storms that passed through in the blink of an eye, and rivers that seemed to change their course without reason. Traders reported caravans vanishing along the roads with no trace. Citizens claimed hearing distant bells tolling in the middle of the night, even though the temples were silent. Most dismissed these as omens, folklore, or coincidence. But in hindsight, they were warnings no one heeded. On the morning the empire vanished, life carried on as usual. Children played in the streets. Merchants haggled over spices and textiles. The ruling council met in the Grand Palace, discussing taxes and trade agreements. By noon, the city had not changed. But as the sun began to set, something inexplicable occurred. Scholars writing by candlelight never saw the flame flicker. Farmers tending fields reported hearing no birds, no wind, no water flowing through canals. And by nightfall, when the moon rose over the capital, it illuminated empty streets. Entire neighborhoods had disappeared, their homes gone as if they had never existed. Markets were silent, temples abandoned. Streets that had once thrummed with life now lay in eerie stillness. Not burned, not destroyed, simply vanished. No bodies were found. No armies were seen marching away. The Grand Palace, once the symbol of Zarathia's wealth and power, remained, but empty, doors locked, untouched by human hands. Scholars who arrived later documented something even stranger. The empire's archives, libraries, and granaries were missing too. It was as if the civilization had been erased from existence overnight. Travelers who approached the region in the days following reported a silence so complete that even animals avoided it. Some swore they saw shadows moving between the ruins, fleeting shapes that dissolved when approached. Legends began to grow. Some claimed that Zarathia had been punished by the gods for arrogance. Others whispered that a massive natural catastrophe, something no one had ever recorded, had swallowed the empire. A few more mysterious accounts suggested that the inhabitants had been transported to another land in a single, unimaginable event. But no evidence ever confirmed any theory. All physical traces of life, culture, and civilization had disappeared, leaving only stone foundations partially hidden beneath wind-blown sands. Archaeologists who attempted to study the area centuries later were confounded. Digging in the supposed capital yielded strange results. The ground contained layers of untouched soil, as if no human activity had occurred for generations. There were no artifacts, no human remains, nothing to explain how an empire could vanish. And yet, local oral histories passed down over centuries spoke of Zarathia's sudden disappearance in hushed tones, a tale repeated to children as a warning of impermanence, fear, and the unknown. By the time foreign powers discovered the vanished lands, Zarathia was already a ghost. Surrounding kingdoms documented strange anomalies. Lands once fertile were barren. Rivers changed their courses inexplicably. Wildlife behaved unnaturally, avoiding the ruins entirely. Merchants, explorers, and scholars all recorded versions of the same story. A great empire existed, thrived, and overnight it was gone. The mystery has never been solved. Even today, historians, scientists, and conspiracy theorists debate what could have caused such an event. Natural disasters, mass migrations, supernatural forces, or even cosmic phenomena have all been suggested, but none offer satisfactory answers. The empire's disappearance challenges everything we understand about human civilization, continuity, and history itself. And the most chilling thought: imagine living in a society, believing in its permanence, only to wake up one day and find it gone. No warning, no attack, no catastrophe, just silence. A void where your entire world once stood. The story of Zarathia is not just about a vanished empire. It is a warning about fragility, of civilization, of memory, and of human achievement. Because sometimes history doesn't just fade away. Sometimes it disappears overnight. By the time the sun sank behind the mountains, the capital of Zarathia had already changed. Streets once filled with life now held an unnatural stillness. Traders returning from the marketplace found empty stalls. Families who had gone to their homes never arrived. The river that had supplied the city with fresh water ran silent, almost stagnant, as if the city itself had stopped breathing. Some survivors, those on the outskirts or traveling on trade routes, returned to their homes to find only emptiness. Doors stood ajar. Windows gaped. Furniture and possessions were gone. No trace of the people who had lived there. Families searched desperately, calling names, leaving messages. And then, slowly, silence consumed them. Even the air seemed to carry a warning, a quiet so complete it unsettled the heart. Reports from neighboring kingdoms spread quickly. Envoys arrived to investigate. They expected to find an enemy invasion, a plague, or a natural disaster. Instead, they found stone foundations intact, roads in perfect condition, but no one alive. Granaries were empty, libraries vanished, and temples remained locked, untouched, as if the people had been plucked from existence. Scholars who documented the area later wrote of an eerie perfection. Nothing decayed, nothing remained to rot, and yet nothing lived. Speculation exploded. Some claimed the gods had punished Zarathia for hubris, removing it from the face of the earth. Others whispered of a natural catastrophe of unimaginable proportions, a sudden earthquake or landslide so precise that it swallowed the population without leaving rubble. More fantastical theories emerged over the centuries. A sudden volcanic eruption buried the city in ash, a hidden flood swept through, or even that the entire population had been transported by a cosmic event beyond human understanding. Yet, no theory held up. Every investigation found contradictions. Soil samples suggested no volcanic activity, no bones, no artifacts, no human remains were found to support a natural disaster or massacre. Even local wildlife avoided the ruins. Birds did not perch on the empty walls, and predators did not roam the streets. It was as if the entire ecosystem had been reset alongside the people. Survivors' accounts from the peripheries became legends. A few described strange phenomena in the days leading up to the disappearance. Sudden winds that tore through the city without warning, lights appearing in the sky, and unearthly sounds that no human could replicate. They spoke of shadows that moved with intention, not with the wind. Some claimed that on the night the empire vanished, there was a thunderous sound, like a chorus of bells and drums combined, a sound that left people deafened and terrified. But these accounts were dismissed as folklore. Neighboring kingdoms tried to occupy the abandoned land, hoping to claim Zarathia's wealth and infrastructure. Yet, they too were met with strange occurrences. Troops reported hallucinations, sudden sickness, and even entire units disappearing without a trace. The land resisted human occupation. Within a decade, Zarathia became a forbidden zone, a land avoided by traders, soldiers, and scholars alike. As centuries passed, the story of Zarathia evolved into legend. Oral histories warned that no empire is immune to sudden collapse. Written texts speculated on cosmic forces, divine punishment, and forgotten catastrophes. Modern historians still debate the event, often citing it as one of the most baffling disappearances in recorded history. Satellite imagery centuries later would show patterns in the land that suggested unusual geological activity, but no conclusive evidence of what truly happened. The haunting truth remains. Entire civilizations can vanish overnight. Structures, knowledge, and life itself can disappear without warning, leaving only questions, speculation, and unease. Zarathia's story is a reminder of the fragility of human achievement, the limits of understanding, and the power of the unknown. And perhaps the most chilling question of all is this. If an empire as great as Zarathia could vanish without warning, what ensures that any empire, any city, or even any one of us is truly safe from sudden disappearance? Months after Zarathia vanished, the surrounding kingdoms were in shock. Envoys sent to investigate returned with stories that were impossible to verify. Some claimed they saw smoke rising from the ruins in the dead of night, yet no fire ever existed. Others reported hearing voices chanting in an unknown language carried across the wind, only to vanish when they approached. Entire scouting parties disappeared without leaving tracks, adding to the terror surrounding the empty lands. The neighboring rulers grew wary. What had happened to Zarathia could not be explained by war, famine, or disease. If it could happen to a great empire, they realized it could happen anywhere. Some kingdoms erected walls along the borders, stations with vigilant guards, and ritual offerings to gods they had never worshipped, hoping to appease whatever force had claimed Zarathia. Fear spread faster than trade. Scholars from distant lands tried to decipher records of the vanished empire, piecing together fragments of maps, letters, and oral accounts. But each clue led only to more questions, more contradictions. Among the scattered accounts, a few consistent legends survived. One described the final night before the disappearance, a pale light that washed over the city, bathing every building, street, and field in an unearthly glow. People reportedly heard low hums, vibrations, or whispers that no one could explain. Some claimed that at that moment, the sky seemed to bend, the stars shifting unnaturally. Entire families vanished mid-conversation. Children disappeared from their beds. Animals fled in terror, never to return. Witnesses swore it was neither earthquake, flood, nor fire. They spoke of a force beyond comprehension, one that simply removed life and presence from the world. In the years following, survivors, mostly traders, travelers, and those on the outskirts, told their stories quietly, afraid that anyone who investigated too closely would also disappear. They described lands around Zarathia where compasses no longer worked, rivers ran in unpredictable directions, and crops refused to grow. The environment itself seemed to reject human presence. Some of these survivors formed settlements far from the ruins, telling children of a city that had existed only to vanish, as a warning against pride, ambition, and arrogance. Scholars centuries later tried to rationalize the events scientifically. Some suggested a catastrophic, instantaneous geological event, an underground collapse that swallowed the city and its inhabitants. Others proposed an unrecorded plague so lethal that it wiped out the population in hours, with scavengers or natural forces removing evidence. Even more extreme theories imagined cosmic interference, perhaps a meteor or an unknown celestial phenomenon that distorted reality itself. But none could explain why structures, roads, and fields remained intact while life disappeared entirely. The most chilling accounts came from those who approached the city long after. Explorers wrote of faint shadows glimpsed at twilight, moving figures without form, as if the city's people had left echoes of themselves behind. Travelers swore the streets whispered in voices they almost recognized. And the wind, historians note, carries a strange scent in the ruins, a faint metallic tang that lingers, like the memory of human presence that refuses to fade. Zarathia's disappearance had consequences beyond the lost lives. Trade collapsed, borders destabilized. Neighboring empires, once reliant on Zarathia's markets, faced famine and economic hardship. Fear spread, as rulers imagined similar fates awaiting their own people. Scholars and priests debated moral lessons. Was this divine punishment, a warning against hubris, or a phenomenon beyond human understanding? Oral histories kept the empire alive, but only as a ghost story, a cautionary tale whispered around fires in remote villages. Even today, the ruins of Zarathia remain largely untouched. Modern archaeology has confirmed that no conventional explanation accounts for the disappearance. Ground-penetrating radar reveals foundations and roads, but no evidence of human remains. Satellite images detect patterns in the soil, suggesting unusual sediment movement, but nothing conclusive. The mystery persists, and that is what makes Zarathia terrifying. Not just that an empire vanished, but that it vanished without warning, without trace, without reason. The story endures because it resonates with a primal fear that civilization, no matter how grand, can disappear overnight. That our lives, our cities, our knowledge could vanish, leaving only questions and silence. History has no answers, and perhaps the world is not meant to understand why Zarathia disappeared. Its legacy is a shadow, a whisper, and a warning. Nothing lasts forever. Centuries have passed since the empire of Zarathia disappeared. Yet, its story continues to haunt the imagination. Scholars, explorers, and storytellers have all tried to uncover the truth, but the more they search, the deeper the mystery becomes. The vanished empire has become more than history. It is a symbol of the fragility of civilization, the limits of human understanding, and the enduring power of the unknown. The ruins, the silent streets, the vanished markets, and the empty homes remind us that no matter how grand a civilization may be, no matter how advanced or prosperous, it can disappear overnight. Zarathia vanished not because of war, famine, or disease alone, but because the forces behind its disappearance, whatever they were, remained beyond comprehension, beyond prediction, beyond control. And yet, in the silence left behind, lessons endure. Zarathia warns us to respect the delicate balance of society, to never take prosperity for granted, and to acknowledge that human achievement, while remarkable, is always vulnerable. It reminds us that history is not just a record of what happened, but also a warning of what could happen. Imagine walking through a city, alive with life, and knowing that by nightfall, everything could vanish. Imagine the streets where laughter once echoed, now silent. Imagine the markets, libraries, and temples, emptied without explanation. This is the story of Zarathia, a civilization that reached unimaginable heights and then disappeared, leaving only shadows and whispers behind. As we reflect on this mystery, we must ask ourselves, if such a vast and powerful empire could vanish overnight, what does that mean for the cities, nations, and empires we know today? What is truly permanent in a world where even the greatest achievements can be erased in a single night? The vanished empire teaches us humility, caution, and awareness. It warns that the unknown is always closer than we think, and that history is never truly under our control. The legacy of Zarathia is a silent echo across time, a story that defies reason, a disappearance that defies explanation, and a lesson that transcends generations. If this story unsettled you, consider the fragility of the world around you. Every empire, every city, every human achievement is temporary, and sometimes it can vanish overnight. For those who crave the dark corners of history, the forgotten tragedies, and the mysteries that textbooks leave behind, subscribe and join us as we continue to explore the shadows of our past. Because history is never just what we read. It's what we feel, what we imagine, and what we fear may return. Until next time, remember, civilization is fragile, mystery is eternal, and the unknown is always watching.